The Bat from 1959 was a fun murder mystery film that was set in a big, creepy house and starred Agnes Moorehead and Vincent Price, and a spooky masked killer known only as the Bat. Well, Agnes Moorehead plays the character Cornelia Van Gorder, who is narrating this story. And yes, this is the same Agnes Moorehead of Bewitched fame, yes, and Dora. And she is there at this house with her maid, Lizzie, who's played by actress Lenita Lane. They're renting this place from this bank president, John Fleming, and that detail is important a little bit later in the film. And yes, the mansion does very much look like a model. You got to kind of look past the cheesy special effects of this film, because there's quite a few of them throughout the story. But anyhow, Lizzie gives us some insightful exposition that various servants there have been quitting. They're worried about this killer, the Bat, who is on the loose. The newspapers are full of stories about this Bat character. He's all dressed in black and he sneaks around killing people. Well, they both head to the bank and they meet with the characters Victor and Dale Bailey. Victor is played here by Mike Steele and Dale by Elaine Edwards. And they seem to be nice people. However, we soon find out that there is some trouble. The two of them go to meet with Police Lieutenant Andy Anderson, who's actor Gavin Gordon, who I've seen in a few films before, like Mystery of the Wax Museum. And oh no, the bank is missing over $1 million. Anderson says they should contact the bank president, John Fleming, the guy who owns the mansion, as soon as possible. But they find out that he is out on a hunting trip. And sure enough, we cut away to a remote cabin, and there's Vincent Price as Dr. Malcolm Wells. And he's at this cabin with this bank president, John Fleming, played by Harvey Stevens. And it's a hunting trip that they are on together. Now, John, kind of out of the blue, confesses that he has embezzled money from the bank, that he got away with it, and how Victor Bailey, who works at the bank, will take the fall. He wants to fake his death to get away with it, and he needs this doctor's help, to get a body to use or something like that. Now, this weird scheme is conveniently interrupted as they smell smoke from this large fire outside. Yeah, very weird timing, I guess. But anyhow, John says they need to flee, but he's given away too much. And Dr. Wells does the old switcheroo and shoots him.
We will. As soon as I provide that body we were talking about.
So back at the mansion, Cornelia is playing solitaire. There's a storm raging outside. They read up on Victor's arrest for the theft at the bank. And they also read about John's accidental death in the fire. There's a lot of thunder rumbling around outside, and there's a spooky sound as a suit of armor just topples down some stairs. A shadowy figure, meanwhile, is creeping around outside. And Cornelia, when she sees it, calls the police, but the cops don't find anyone. So they go to Cornelia's room and they lock up to stay safe. And this mysterious figure, however, soon is inside creeping around, and they call the police again. And when Lizzie is going to go out to get her things, they see this shocking shadow of the creepy guy right outside their room. And the police tell them they don't find anything. Now, both ladies go to sleep, but that creepy shadow figure is up to more tricks, and he releases a bat into their room. A very realistic-looking bat, too. The bat bites Lizzie, and she freaks out, thinking she'll get rabies, and they call for Dr. Wells, who at that time is mysteriously not available. But we do cut over to Dr. Wells' place, where he's hard at work doing some sort of eerie experimentation with bats. Okay, he gets a call from the operator, and he goes to visit with Lizzie and check on the bat bite. And while he's gone, this detective shows up at Dr. Wells' place and goes snooping around. He sees the bats in the cage and a big freaky bat behind a curtain. Anyhow, Dr. Wells arrives and treats Lizzie. And all the while they're talking away about the creepy old house and the servants that have all left. He puts on some big gloves and catches the bat in the closet, to take back to his lab, check if it has rabies. And on the way out, he encounters the detective who is outside. And, he's curiously suspicious about what's going on, and he's convinced that this is all the work of the bat, and he wants to have a police guard outside the house. Well, the next day, Detective Anderson goes and visits with Mark and shares his theory that he believes that John Fleming, the deceased bank president, was responsible for the theft, and that maybe he had transferred the bonds into cash and hid it away somewhere. Now, Mark, who is setting up his new office, he doesn't know, and he lets him know that the bank secretary, Julie Hollander, will be testifying in court the next day on Victor's behalf. Now, Judy, by the way, is played here by Darla Hood. Yes, this is Darla from our gang, the Little Rascals. That's pretty cool. Anyhow, Cornelia invites Dale and Judy to visit, and she has a new butler, Warner. He's played here by actor John Sutton. He's an actor I've seen in films before, like The Invisible Man Returns. He's maybe a little bit suspicious, but you know what? Everybody in this film is suspicious. They talk about the trial, and Cornelia, at this point, speculates as a mystery writer how something like this could have been pulled off, how it could be done. Dr. Wells just listens, but he's got a suspicious look to him. So Dale calls Mark, the nephew of the bank president, and yeah, again, the story's a little convoluted, and is curious if he might happen to have floor plans for the mansion, since his uncle once owned the place. He says he'll come by later to look for them. And sure enough, he arrives, and before they even know that he's there, he goes snooping around, trying to find a hidden room, and he manages to find one behind an old grandfather clock. He finds some plans and papers in this hidden closet, but, oh no, the bat! Well, the women, noticing the clock ringing, I guess somehow moving it made it start chiming again, and they weren't used to the sound. I don't know. They move it too, and they find Mark's body. Detective Anderson arrives soon, as does Dr. Wells, and he checks the body and determines that he has only been dead for a short amount of time and that the killer might still be in the house. Warner the butler shows up, and the detective seems suspicious of him too. He has this weird feeling that he knows him from somewhere before. Well, the detective tells the women, go to their rooms, lock the doors, and then he watches as they take this dead body away. And Dr. Wells leaves as well, but not before a little bit of dialogue.
You staying here tonight, Andy?
Well, until I check the doors and windows, but I'll be back bright and early in the morning.
Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds.
A lot of people are due for a shock when I close this case.
Yes, I'm sure they are. Good night, Andy. Don't get hurt.
Good night, Doctor.
Well, the detective goes investigating outside, and Warner watches him. Whatever could be going on. Later that night, the bat sneaks into the house and cuts the phone line. He heads into a room and starts hammering at this empty wall. Now, this sound, of course, wakes up the women in the other room, and Dale is convinced, for some crazy reason, to go out and investigate. Anyhow, she finds him, and he escapes, but as he's fleeing down some stairs, he kills Judy. Cornelia nails him in the neck with a really perfectly thrown fireplace poker, but the bat, clutching his neck, still gets away. Now, Detective Anderson returns just then, saying that he was out in the trees when he heard a noise in the house. Because, everybody's just suspicious in this film. Dr. Wells shows up as well. His car had gone off the road, and the detective noticed that he has a suspicious bleeding injury near his head. And, of course, Dr. Wells blames the car accident. Of course. The next day, we have Cornelia is dictating events to Dale, who's writing it all down. And with only about 10 to 15 minutes left of this film, I'm not going to give more away. No more spoilers, but everything is resolved in a big convoluted sort of way. The women continue to explore the creepy old house. There's more secrets and mysteries, and that creepy bat character returns again. And you'll have to watch and see how this all comes together. It's a crazy Scooby-Doo style ending, but I liked it. And some quick closing thoughts. This was a fun, if Very silly film. And honestly, it really isn't all that spooky. And there's really no, like, monster element other than the guy dressed up in black sneaking around killing people. This is more of just a traditional murder mystery with elements of the creepy old haunted house formula with secret passages and hidden rooms. There's even a hint of the mad scientist gimmick, with Vincent Price doing weird experiments on his bats. But otherwise, honestly, this film was all over the place. And a little background about the story. Apparently, this film was the fourth big screen adaptation of the novel The Circular Staircase, written by Mary Roberts Reinhardt. She had intended the tale to be a parody of the pulp mystery thrillers which were popular at the time. And the story would even be adapted into a stage play a little bit later on. And I did appreciate the performance here by Vincent Price, even if he's not too completely over the top here, maybe a little more subdued. He keeps you guessing, though, and I'll be honest, the big reveal was a good one. Agnes Moorehead also did a fine job as this mystery writer character. And yeah, again, it's hard for me not to see Endora in my head whenever I see her in a film like this, but she's a believable character, and I liked her silly chatter with Lanita Lane. Now, on a related note, Agnes Moorehead was in one of my favorite episodes of the original Twilight Zone, the episode called The Invaders. If you remember it, it's the one with the tiny little aliens who terrorize her all alone out in this remote cabin. That one honestly freaked me out when I watched it, especially how they'd be setting up traps, to jab her with knives and stuff, those nasty little aliens. I love that one. That's something I might do on my channel someday, is review old Twilight Zone episodes, but honestly, I've got so many movies to get through. That might be a long time from now. Anyhow, bats seem to be the theme of a lot of these older films. I guess namely thanks to films like Dracula. And, I've reviewed a couple other interesting bat-themed films already, like The Vampire Bat and The Devil Bat. I'm sure there's others. There's also a 1926 silent version of The Bat that was produced by Feature Productions for United Artists. And I should dig that out and, check it out someday. Well, that's The Bat. It was directed by Crane Wilbur, produced by Liberty Pictures, and distributed by Allied Artists. And the film has apparently fallen into the public domain. I found tons of copies of it all over the place. It's on YouTube. I have a few links in the description below. The Bat was a fun bit of cheesy horror, and it's worth checking out.
It's rather a clever way to hide stolen money. In the open, as it were. And so respectable. But don't try it. No matter how clever you are, you can't hide murder.